Gary, wait. Do you hear that? Do you hear
No.
that, Gary? That is the sound of all of the New York sports fans' heads exploding.
In a congratulatory fashion?
Yes. Welcome to the Elle Duncan Show with Gary Streisky. I mean, their Mets finally get back
Yes.
to the postseason after being kept out of the postseason last year, starting out the season with essentially like an acknowledgement that they were in a rebuild. A new skipper, they got rid of all their dead money. They were like, "Yo, this season's a wash." And here they go. They beat their division rivals, the Phillies, wrap this thing up before anybody else did, and win their first playoff series since 2015 when they
Damn.
went all the way to the World Series and lost. You've got that. You've got the New York Liberty, who are about to embark on game one of the WNBA Finals and are heavy favorites over the Lynx. You've got the Knicks that have loaded up and many people believe are really, really, really going to contend with the Celtics. And these dudes in New York, there is
Uh-huh.
like Timberlands going nuts. Like
Uh-huh.
everybody's going bananas. There's
Everybody and
so
their
much
butters
bing
doing
bonging.
it.
You
Uh-huh.
know it.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna be, good or bad, depending on how you feel about New York teams. I do have an Am I the Asshole for you a little bit later. I
Okay.
want to pose a question based on, I can be prickly when it comes to sports
Sure.
fandom. I have sports hate pumping through my veins. Just want to get a little temperature check on Am I the Asshole for how I feel watching some of the reaction yesterday on Twitter. We're also going to get into more on the WNBA finals. We'll talk a little football. We'll
Wait,
talk,
L, time out, time out, time out.
yeah.
You brought up the Mets, you brought up the Liberty, you brought up how the Knicks have high aspirations. You're just gonna gloss over the fact that the Jets and the Giants are like the two worst teams in football, right in there next to the Cleveland Browns.
Well, the
Listen,
Giants are
New
coming off
York
of a
listeners
win.
aren't
The
gonna let you
Giants
get
are
a
coming off
pass.
of a win and a big
Okay.
win against the Seahawks, right? Where like
Okay.
their offense actually looked decent against a
Uh-huh.
pretty good defense. They're feeling good. Jets fans, not so much. And we'll get to that.
Yeah.
How much of a pressure cooker is Aaron Rodgers under? I do
Yeah.
not believe a word he said on the Pat McAfee show. We'll get into that. We'll play you the sound that he said in terms of his culpability of getting Robert Saleh fired. But I want to start with making money moves.
Yes.
Okay.
What's that like?
Juju Watkins. I don't know. Juju Watkins, USC basketball star, extends her contract with Nike, signs with Gatorade, cha-ching. We love it here. I love watching college players in general finally be able to cash in on their value, but also in particular in the women's side, because
Mhm.
this is something that maybe she would have had to have waited until she got in years prior to the W and won multiple championships before she got a shoe deal and a
Yeah.
Gatorade deal, right? And they're getting it early and often. They're riding waves now and they're recognizing sort of the investment in the future. And Juju, as they said in their announcement, she doesn't got next, she's got now. So
Yeah, she's up.
congratulations to her, right? Paige Beckers, who was one of the first people. In fact, I think she was the first female athlete to sign with Gatorade while they were
Mhm.
still in college. She's going to be huge this year as well. And it was interesting because our producer Christina brought up the fact that like these sort of things are important to recognize as well. The difference between women's college basketball and men's college basketball is that when you have these sort of next level stars, right? When you have a Zion Williamson or any of those things, they can come out after 1 year. In fact, a lot of times you're judged on whether you come out after 1 year or not, right? Like that's supposed to be the predictor on how important you are, is how quickly you can become a lotto pick.
Mhm.
On the women's side, they don't have a choice. You have to be 22 years old the year of the draft and to also have no more years of eligibility in college or be willing, of course, to renounce your eligibility. But so it doesn't matter whether Juju has what we expect is going to be another generational type of year because she was incredible last year. You guys, incredible. I mean, USC, you talk about being ahead of the curve with the Mets. Like USC was just supposed to be in a bit of a rebuild, right? Like
Mhm.
it was a once former proud program when Lisa Leslie was there, but they hadn't seen that same type of success. Juju decides to sign there as a local SoCal girl. A lot of people thought, oh, okay, like you're gonna go to USC, they're not exactly a powerhouse. And right away she takes them to the Elite Eight. So I think like she's going to have another type of year. She's teaming up with Kiki Iriafen, who transferred from Stanford, and they're going to be amazing. But it doesn't matter how good her year is. She ain't coming out this year. She gonna have
Mhm.
a few more. I think Juju's 19 years old. Like
Yeah.
she got 3 more years of this, which I honestly believe is also why so much of the juice, the energy, the talk, the buzz is around the women's side as opposed to the men, because you really can build an investment with these women because you
Mhm.
see them for 3 and in many cases 4, sometimes 5 years.
I agree. I think we've talked about this on this show too, how eventually in the long game, students and student athletes having to stay in college, whether it's mandated because the infrastructure was not yet in place for them to maybe declare for a draft and have more opportunities and a better opportunity to play secondary than a Division One program. But the WNBA is there now. Overseas basketball is there now on the men's side as well with the NIL and all of these money deals going down collegiately. It's going to eventually enhance the professional product. When you have Caitlin Clark coming out as a senior going into the WNBA and having an immediate impact, and Angel Reese being the upperclassman and doing the same thing. And then this year, we're going to have Paige Beckers, right? She's had a couple injury laden seasons, but hopefully she stays healthy. She's a senior and she's going to be the number one overall pick in next year's WNBA draft. You're getting all of this experience handled at the D1 level with now more money, which more money means more resources. More resources just means there's a better and even playing field from across levels, right? You don't just have the Tennessees and the Yukons of the world just running absolute shop. There's more money to go around. So you have better talent in more places. It's going to enhance the level of play. And I think that's going to be for the long run better for the college game and going into the WNBA and in the NFL as well and things like that. But I think it's cool. I haven't seen the figures on the Nike deal, but Elle, when I was looking up how old Juju was or is, she's 19. She was born in 2005. That's when I graduated high school.
Yeah.
That's when she was born. That's crazy. But being a sophomore now, going into this season, like D1 Hoops has this groundswell of like excitement, right? From all of the freshmen who were awesome last year in Juju and Hannah Hidalgo and the upperclassmen like Paige, people are going to be locked in. And I think we even talked about this last season. There was more name buzz and name recognition around the women's game last year than there was the men's game in D1.
Yeah, but again, I think a lot of that is like the investment, the opportunity for them to play with the same team,
For
right? Like
sure.
to have some of these revenge storylines. Like I remember watching Juju last year, how emotional she was after they lost to UConn in the Elite Eight. And I think even her emotions caught her by surprise, but it was because, again, you start out the year with very little expectation. Then all of a sudden, you're very good and you
Mhm.
are exactly the star athlete that was promised. And then there's momentum, there's expectation, there's like
Yeah.
all of these things, and she was crushed, but she also said she was going to learn from it and come back better, and they got better. I mean, they got Kiki Iriafen. I'm telling you, like
Yeah.
they're going to be a dynamic 1-2 punch. Kiki Iriafen will more than likely be a lottery pick as well. She left Stanford after Tara Vanderveer decided to retire. Kiki too, like I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Juju got a Kiki and a Juju. I love it. They keep it simple. You know what I mean? I'm kikiing for Juju because I think what's cool too is there's so many different personality types. Like I always think that who you gravitate to as an athlete is really like a Rorschach test for your personality. And I had a chance to spend some time with Juju in France a few months ago. I know you
Oh,
haven't
you've been to
heard, but
France?
I
Oh
I
shit,
went to I went to France.
you've been to France? That's crazy because I don't
I
know.
remember. I was there for an event, a panel with Kiki Rice and with Juju. And Juju is like so cool and chill. She is such a Cali, like so
Mhm.
Cali vibe. I mean, she has the charisma. She's just like authentically herself. And she gets it. Like I think the cool thing with these young women is just the awareness of what they carry, the ability to be really great at what you do. It's already hard to be a student athlete. It always was, but now you incorporate being an entire brand and a business as well. And I think they just do such a great job of managing all of those things, from the Caitlin Clarks to the Angel Reeses to Juju to all of these women, Kiki, who all have NIL, significant NIL deals, and understand that there's a lot of pots that they have to fill and a lot of cooks that they have to serve. So I
Mhm.
think her personality is so dope. We've got the season starting in about 3 weeks from now. Biggest storylines I'm super excited about: UConn, of course,
Yeah.
like trying to run it back one more time. A lot of people think that this could be Gino's last year. He will very early in the season break Tara Vanderveer's record for the most wins in D1 basketball history. And the idea that Paige came back for her 5th year, her COVID year, because she felt like there was just meat left on the bone, right? They had more significant injuries last year that impacted their squad, namely to AZ Fudd. So she's coming back, how they reload, how they retool. I'm super excited. You mentioned Hannah Hidalgo. People forget Olivia Miles was like freshman of the year in the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
She's injured at the end of her freshman year. She doesn't play at all last year. So they're going to have the most dynamic 1-2 punch at guard, trying to see like who's going to be, who's going to bring the ball up, like who's going to be the primary ball handler. That's super exciting. I think Notre Dame is going to be really, really good. Don't sleep on LSU. I know they lost Angel Reese. They still have Flage. They still have Michaela Williams, who was an incredible freshman last year. And I'm also still really super interested, of course, in USC. We already mentioned that, but I'm also still riding with South Carolina. They lost a huge piece in Camila Cardoso, but
Yeah.
they got one of the top recruits in the nation in Joyce Edwards, who's going to be a monster in the paint. There's still some question marks surrounding availability of Ashlyn Watkins, who has found herself in legal trouble. And that would be huge because she was a big part of their depth and their ability to score off the bench. But, never sleep on Dawn Staley. There's so many great storylines out there. There's no concern that just because Angel and Caitlin are no longer in college, that the enthusiasm will wane, because it is storylines aplenty.
This is a projection for 3 years down the road. But just taking a look at the passing of the torch and all-time leading scorers in women's basketball, obviously Caitlin took that record last season. Do you think Juju Watkins takes that from her in 3 years?
Absolutely. I mean, she's heading that way.
She's on that path, right? 4
She's
years.
on that path. She already broke her, single season freshman scoring records. Yeah. And like, if she keeps at this pace, I mean, obviously, right, anything can happen, but if she keeps at this particular pace and would potentially play those full 4 years, absolutely she could. 100%. I mean, she is a offensive revelation, but also like a really stingy defender as well.
27 points per game last season, was second in the country, only to Caitlin Clark. All right. Season starts in a couple of weeks.
Season starts in a few weeks.
Baby.
Do you know what starts in a few hours, though?
Come on.
NFL week 6, right? Is that where we're at?
Lock it in.
Week 6. Week
1 week behind college.
Nailed it. I know. Week 7 in college, week 6 in the NFL. And we're going to ask, who is facing the most pressure? Who's in the pressure cooker? Who is that basmati rice right now? About to get pressure.
Is that what that spice was in the air? Okay. Listen, Elle, the first name on this list he's not aware of any pressure cooker. He doesn't cook his food. Of course, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. This guy's
because he just forages his food out of the forest.
Correct.
Takes it and sees what happens.
Yes, the leader of his tribe has recently been dispatched, sent off to pasture in Robert Saleh. So to say that Aaron Rodgers, as we run down this list, is under any sort of pressure, I don't think so. I think he's aware of the scrutiny a little bit. And I think he's aware of the turmoil, all right, and the unpleasantness right now. But I don't think that he feels he's under any sort of pressure, because after next season, he could walk away after this season if he wants to. But if they make the trade for Devontae Adams before November 5th, he will be appeased, see if they can turn it around. It's still early.
I think he's facing an immense amount of pressure. And you're right. He does recognize the scrutiny because he addressed it on the Pat McAfee show. Here's what he said.
As far as any of the ridiculous allegations out there, I'm not going to spend more than one sentence in response to it. And that is that I resent any of those accusations because they're patently false. And it's interesting the amount of power that people think that I have, which I don't.
Okay. I don't believe that an organization that has built itself in the image of Aaron Rodgers with the pieces they brought in, with bringing Nathaniel Hackett in, his offensive coordinator at the Packers, I find it very hard to believe that no one informed this man or ran it by this man that they would potentially be making a midseason coaching change, something they've never done, Woody Johnson, in the history of owning the Jets, especially after starting out 2-3. Was it disappointing that you lost to the Broncos? I mean, it looks less disappointing, right? Like, look at the Broncos. I mean, they
Hey,
beat up on the
Broncos
Raiders.
kind of
It's the
nice.
Raiders, but like
Broncos kind of nice.
Raiders got three. The Broncos got three. I'm just saying, like, I recognize that you think that was your bottom. Then you lose to an undefeated Vikings team in London, and despite how bad this offense has looked and how good the defense has looked, you still, if you win your game, could be winning your division, and you decide to fire that coach, someone that Aaron claims is his good friend, and you don't give him a heads up. I'm not buying that at all. I do think the pressure is on him because he admitted it at the very least that if he plays better the other day, Robert Saleh still has his job. The thing that I'm not advocating for Robert Saleh and saying that he was a great coach. Okay. I'm not saying any of that. Sometimes the proof is in the pudding and the numbers don't lie. And the man had an abhorrent win-loss record. Although you could say last year was a throwaway, right? Because of losing Aaron Rodgers. But his side of the street, the defense was clean. The defense is the only reason you have any wins this season. His side of the street was in good shape. The offensive side of the street is in shambles, is in disarray. They are an absolute mess. They've only looked good against the Patriots, who, again, is a team that wasn't favored in a single game this season, the only team to have that bad exception. And that's the only time they looked like they were singing or that they were solid. And I think that they're scapegoating Robert Saleh a little bit here. So yes, this is going to be on Aaron Rodgers. And the truth is that they didn't do anything by firing Robert Saleh to make that side of the street better. The only way to make that better is to go make a trade for Devontae Adams. But again, as Adam Schefter told us on our show yesterday, Gary, that gets more precarious because now you don't have a head coach. So there's no one that's weighing in and making those decisions to help bring someone in before November 5th. Certainly they can get it done, right? That's what GMs are for and president of football operations. But yeah, the pressure is on Aaron Rodgers. 100% that it is.
He might feel pressure, but I think in order for somebody to feel pressure, there has to also culminate with some sort of culpability or some sort of emotion. Accountability if you don't live up to said pressure. And I think with Aaron Rodgers, he is very much Bruce Lee, be water, off his back, doesn't care, for better or worse.
He's disinterested. Even he, as like devoid of reality as he can be, can't honestly believe that he's not a problem. He's a problem. He is. He's not. This is not a Bengals situation, which is our next one that we're getting to in the pressure cooker. It's not like you're doing everything that you can. You're quite literally trying to save this team by strapping them on their back, and defense keeps letting you down. That's not the case.
Yes.
He doesn't look good. I don't know if that's
like a 40-year-old quarterback playing in the cold.
Correct. Coming off of an Achilles tear. Like, he looks rusty. Every once in a while, yes, you'll get one of those vintage Aaron Rodgers throws where he whips it in. He gets rid of the ball quite quickly, but it's not, there's no timing. There's no anticipation. There's no chemistry with his receivers. Again, receivers that they brought in specifically for Aaron Rodgers because he's already worked with them before. Like, he can't honestly be delusional enough to not think that he has any culpability in how bad this team looks.
You have to go get Devontae Adams. You have to pick up the phone and make something happen with Hassan Reddick. And you have to go all in because that at this point, you're already 85% of your body's in the water, right? You got to dunk the rest of it.
100%.
Yeah.
Go all in. All right. Under more pressure, Zac Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, or Joe Burrow, the quarterback of the Bengals?
It ain't Joe Burrow. My man is playing out of this world right now. He was 30 of 39 with 5 touchdowns last week against the Ravens. Zac Taylor lost them that game. All they had to do was let Joe Burrow be Joe Burrow and complete a couple passes and not run 3 straight times to let the Ravens get the ball back since they missed wide left on a long field goal. Like, Joe Burrow is doing what he is supposed to do. And kind of scary that he was in the media like, oh, I'm not quite 100% yet. I'm like, bro just went for 5 touchdowns, 12 scores this year, 2 interceptions. It's all Zac Taylor because the Bengals have the pieces. You can't say that the offensive pieces aren't there. All right, defense doing its thing, whatever. Maybe not last week. You got to stop the run. They're 25th in the NFL in doing so, but it is not on Joe Burrow.
No, I actually, yes. Is it like more on the head coach because he's the guy that runs it all? Sure. But I still think that this is firmly on Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
They're horrible.
They're very bad.
Well, when your offense gives you 100 points in 3 games and you don't win any of those games, like that's crazy. You come on, man. And like, I love Chris Candy, and he has just decided he's going to die on this hill, that it's all Joe Burrow's fault. And like, I'm sure that he took that interception. That was at a bad timing, right? Like, if we're going to give Joe Burrow praise, then we also have to be critical of him when he makes mistakes, and he did.
Yes.
He only has 2 interceptions this year. But yes, that one against
That
the
was one of
Ravens was
them.
costly. It was, especially because when it happened, but that man literally scored 5 touchdowns. Like, you can't do that. And I can't even remember now which Bengals DB we had locker room sound from on SportsCenter on Wednesday. And he was like, I'm not even gonna lie, we kind of playing like some. I was like, yes, thank you. Y'all are playing horrible. He acknowledged it. It's the
Yes.
same sort of it's like the opposite effect of the Broncos, where like their defense was like, come on, bruh. We're losing games 10-12. Like, we're
Hmm.
giving up 12 points. You have to win games in the NFL in 2024 when your defense gives up 12 points. That's a
If you're hanging
game
up 30,
you have to
this
win.
is a four straight week get right stretch for the Bengals, who are 1-4 right now, and very much on the outside looking into any sort of playoff aspirations. Because this Sunday they're at New York, then
That's a win.
they're at Cleveland.
That's a win.
That needs to be a dub. Then they host Philly. Who knows what Philly's doing right now? And then
Yeah,
they
they're
host
very up and down. And then the
and then they host
Raiders,
the
their
Raiders.
schedule gets a lot easier over the next 4
Correct.
weeks. They
Correct.
can go on a bit of a run, and you're right. I mean, the proof is in the numbers. Teams that start out 1-4, 5% of them go on to make the playoffs. In particular, in a division that's a lot more loaded than maybe we would have assumed starting the year.
Mhm.
But they have an opportunity to build a little momentum here. Every one of their next 4 games is incredibly winnable. In particular, how we're judging the Eagles right now, because there's very little about the Eagles that we know.
Yeah, it ain't Joe Burrow's fault. By the
It
way,
ain't
I saw the
already.
picture. I think you were doing first take, and I only saw just a glimpse of him when I was at Seaport doing first take a couple of months ago. Chris Canty might be the biggest human. That's a complete sentence.
He's
He's
an he's an
massive.
enormous
He's a
man.
moose.
He is an enormous man. And it's always made worse when you have to stand. Like, they never do 5'3" people like me a favor when they make us stand up next to these
He's
giants.
gigantic.
My dad comes running into the studio, and he was like, I had to see if Chris was really that big or if you're just that small and you make people look bigger. I'm like, no, he's just
Okay, yeah.
that big and made me look smaller.
I'm pulling up the stats. 6'7", 320.
Yeah. He is a huge human being. He is.
He's the
Great
size
guy.
of a Toyota Corolla. He's
Yeah,
a
he's huge. He's a very significantly large man, which is why when I disagree with him, I do it very nicely and politely.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. From across the studio,
I love you. I love
and
you
you
so
say,
much.
"Hey, Stephen A, can you pass this message along?"
Yeah. Candy's a great dude, by the way. A great dude. All right. And lastly, who is facing more pressure? Well, there's no other choice. It's just the Browns organization.
Yeah. I mean, from top to bottom. And here's the thing about pressure is that Deshaun Watson kind of likes pressure, like a little pressure up here, a little pressure up there. Yeah.
God.
He likes pressure applied. All right. But in the context of this kind of pressure, L, he ain't liking that.
I
But
saw
again, he doesn't care. 200
yeah.
mils guaranteed.
I saw a tweet, and I don't know how true it is, so I'll do the responsible thing and just repeat it. That I was like, damn, the perspective. It said Deshaun Watson, since leaving the Texans, has settled more sexual assault cases than he's thrown touchdowns.
Well, recently 23, 23
Yes.
or 24.
And I
Stand
think he
by.
has like 14 touchdowns in his Cleveland Browns tenure. And
Hold
that
on.
is
I'm gonna do the
just
math for us right now, dude.
do the math. And that is just that's so wild. I mean, I mentioned it on this podcast. I mentioned it on First Take that he's as bad a quarterback that we've seen in a Cleveland Browns uniform since DeShone Kizer, and they benched DeShone Kizer, and they're not going to want to bench Deshaun Watson because of how much money they paid him. But somebody just has to admit they made a mistake. Like there's no more pressure. It's been agreed and decided. This is the worst contract of all time. And
Yes.
we knew that. We knew that when the market, you know how markets are, they always
Mhm.
reset with each one of these big gargantuan quarterback deals. It did not reset. The
Correct.
market told you it was a mistake because it didn't reset the market. It was an anomalous contract. And on top of that, he's not been able to live up to it. And it's over for Deshaun Watson, in my opinion, at least in Cleveland. I don't know. Maybe the guy goes somewhere else and becomes Sam Darnold. But in terms of what's happening in Cleveland right now, if you have any chance of winning, If you want to tell your season ticket holders that you are still goal oriented, then you've got to bring Jameis Winston in because the
Mhm.
numbers bear that in any other situation, you would bench this quarterback, and it's time.
19 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Well, 2 full seasons, and then whatever the 5 game that he's played so far. So 19, and he's settled, we know, over
23.
20. So that tweet was correct. So kids, take that. You can believe everything you read on the internet.
How sad would Philadelphia fans be if they lost to the lowly Browns?
Oh my God. You're listen, you're putting that out in the universe. I feel I feel like the chances is definitely higher than non-zero, L.
I don't think they can take it. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't think they can handle it. So let's get to the Am I the Asshole?
Okay.
Because as y'all know, my co-host, Kevin Nagandi, noted Philadelphia fan from
You
Philadelphia,
don't say.
he has been giving me the last couple of years because the Braves season has ended at the hands of the Phillies. Despite the historic number of wins last year, we lose right away to the Phillies, same as the year before. We were in the pole position and we get upset by this Phillies team that comes out of nowhere and surprises people. Now, I conversely have been giving him plenty of because that's what I do about his Sixers. Had a great time when my Hawks ended his Sixers season a few years ago when they were well, like the number 2 seed and they were supposed to actually do some things and they did not. And so there is a little part of me because of my friendship and affinity for Kevin that wants to feel bad for Kevin. But then he and all these Philadelphia fans posted yesterday on Twitter after the Phillies yet again lose. They started posting how hard it's been to be a Philadelphia. In fact, Christina, Sarah, can we get like some
Oh,
sad violin music while I read all the foibles of Philadelphia sports over the last
mm,
couple of years? Here we go.
cue the strings.
It all started in October of 2022. The Phillies blow a 2-1 World Series lead to the Astros and lose. And then the Eagles, they look great. And Jalen Hurts is amazing. And they go to the Super Bowl. And then they blow a 10-point second half lead to the Chiefs. And then the Sixers, well, they can't beat the Celtics. And then the Sixers, well, they can't beat the Knicks. And then Joel Embiid, oh, this man can't stay healthy. And then the Eagles start out the season 10-1 and completely collapse down the stretch. And now, again, it's the Phillies and they lose to the Mets.
Hey, yo,
Am I
L.
the asshole for thinking, bruh, literally no one feels bad for y'all? Like, no one is like laying in bed at night going like, oh, I just wish Philadelphia sports fan had nicer things. Like, that's like the IRS being like, it's really tough taking people's money.
Like, man, hopefully those Philadelphians catch a break one of these days.
Yeah.
L, listen, first 2 points. Incredible fake crying. I was like, hold on. I think L might be actually catching feelings right here. One,
Wrong.
two, this is actually like a dope resume if you're a sports fan in Milwaukee or Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like, yo, damn, we made it to the playoffs. We made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We went to a championship series. Well, I guess the Diamondbacks did go to the World Series, but either way, thank you going through the Phillies to get there. But like, this is a dope resume for any other fan base that's not Philly, New York, Boston.
You're right. Yeah. It's like,
So
yeah,
to
to
answer your
Devon.
question,
Yeah.
no.
There's a lot of like moral victories here. There's like tons of moral victories. Like, oh, I mean, we made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, most teams wish they could start out 10-1.
Hey,
I mean, what a privilege and honor to blow a World Series lead. We were there.
listen,
That
to
doesn't
blow a
work.
World Series lead, you got to get to the World Series. So, hey,
But you're
shout out
right.
Kevin. Y'all winning, bro.
Right. But you're
Turn
right. Like
that
that's something that
upside
like
down.
that's something that like Miami fans would say, not Philadelphia.
Yes.
They pride themselves on being a real legitimate sports town that breeds champions. They've done it
Mhm.
in the past and it's not good enough. It is not good enough. Just like the
Mm-mm.
Yankees, right? Like the Yankees are moving on, or they're one game away from moving on. They're on the brink. But like there's real concerns about why Aaron Judge can't hit in September. And I hate that for him. Like I
Yeah.
hate the idea that the man that literally carries this team through the regular season to put them in a position,
Mhm.
to be a playoff team, can't solve that riddle. I
Correct.
still hold out hope. Like, it was shocking to me that Mookie Betts was like 1 for 24 before or 0 for 24 before he hasn't been good in the postseason for 3 years.
Mhm.
And he finally figured it out. And like, he's helping key the Dodgers in the last couple of games. They lost, game 3, but ended up winning last night. So there's still hope for Aaron Judge, but like, it's the Yankees, right? It's not good enough to like win a wild card series. It's not good enough to win a divisional series. Like, the
Mhm.
goal is always championships. And so the idea that Philadelphia, I mean, this year they didn't get close.
Yeah,
These
no, that's
last
crazy
couple
because
of years they made a run.
they were World Series pick for me to get there. But not for nothing. Like, Kevin, we feel for you, brother. But if your tweets are going to be doing numbers like this, enjoy that misery, bro. I mean, this thing's got over 2,000 retweets, 13,000 likes. This thing has been engaged upon. This thing has been engaged with more than Kim Kardashian. I mean, this thing's got some engagement. You know what I'm saying? Like 800 comments. Damn. Okay,
Listen,
Kevin, do you?
getting engagements like Jennifer Lopez.
There
This
it
is
is. That's the number.
There it
That's the
is.
name I was looking for.
Yeah, there's been 5. There's like this little sound I'm hearing. It's the world's tiniest violin as I cry tears for the Phillies. And again, it makes it worse for them that like a sports city that they hate, like New York, is
Yes.
thriving right now. Yes, put the Jets aside, throw the baby out with the
Uh-huh.
bathwater. But we've got WNBA Finals action that's tipping off. And honestly, this segment is going to age like milk because literally within mere hours, it's not going to be relevant, but that's okay because we're going to do a little table setting on the Lynx and the Liberty. Game 1 Thursday night. Game 2 will be Sunday on ABC. I'll be holding down the desk of that one, and we'll tip at
You'll
3
be at
o'clock.
Barclays, right?
We'll be at the Barclays, which is
That's
great.
sick.
I love it. I'm like, listen, I don't typically care like who is seated where, but the idea that I get to go right up the street to work is really no planes, like no, none of that is kind of fantastic. So I think what's cool about this series, Gary, just like treetops, is you have sort of these two very different teams who have a lot of mainstream, recognition, but in two different ways, right? The Liberty are one of the original WNBA franchises and have yet to win a championship. They've been to
Mhm.
5 finals. This will be their 6th, and they have none. Every other team that's been to at least 5 finals has 3. One of those teams being the Minnesota Lynx, who a lot of people forget, especially if they're new to the W, that this was like the franchise. Like, apart from the inaugural, few years where it was the Houston Comets and Cheryl Swoops like dominating, this was the franchise in the mid 2000s. They were getting a championship every other year. They were trading them off. They had 4 between 2010 and 2017. Maya Moore, of course, was the face of the league. And it's been a long time coming that they could sort of return back to that glory. When she decided to move on, they tinkered with the lineups a little bit and they would get close, but never would able to get back to the finals. Now they have a bona fide star in Nafisa Collier, who, by the way, is putting up playoff numbers that franchise has never seen. And yes, a franchise that has Maya Moore on it. And they are sort of, in my mind, the epitome of like the island of misfit toys a little bit. And the thing I like about the Lynxes, and really this matchup it is the difference of a super team versus the island of misfit toys, right?
Okay.
So the Atlanta Dream cut Courtney Williams. She has 24 points on Tuesday in the closeout game over the Sun. Okay.
Second leading scorer right now, right? In the playoffs.
Exactly.
Courtney
This
Williams,
is
yeah.
back in 2021. That same year in 2021, the Courtney Williams is cut. Bridget Carlton is released by the Sun. She shot almost 45% from 3 this season and was only with the Sun for 4 games. The Indiana Fever cut Alana Smith, who had 2 blocks and 7 points in game 5. And she only made 1 start in the first 4 years of her WNBA career. And then, yes, they have a bonus 5 star, Nafisa Collier, won a championship at UConn. But like, they've talked so much about just the gratitude of playing with each other and that they are sort of they're emblematic of it's all about the system.
Mhm.
It's about the belief in each other. It's about sharing the ball. And they've all sort of found this home and this renewed life in Minnesota. And it's very, very cool. Of course, on the other side, you've got the Liberty, who are a super team, right? They go get Jonquil Jones from the Sun. They bring in Brianna Stewart when she was a free agent after she left the Storm. They already had Sabrina Ionescu in place. They brought in Courtney Vandersloot in free agency. And then this year, the real difference for them has been bringing in the 24-year-old rookie from Germany, Leonie Febush, who's been incredible. She was great off the bench. She's been started in the semis and has just been like a great defender, a walking bucket. And so it's sort of like pick your poison in terms of the storyline that you like,
Yeah.
right? Do you like a team that's patchworked and put together with some cast-offs from other places? Or do you like a team that was put together to A, take down the Aces and did that successfully, and B, put together to bring the state of New York their first basketball title since 1973? It's
Yeah,
really
I'm
cool.
pulling for the Liberty based off of those headlines, and I think they have a lot of players, not that the Lynx don't, but that are likable, right? You want to see these players, the Jonquil Joneses, you want to see the Stewies and the Ionescus sort of get those titles, right? They've been in the spotlight for so long. My question is, because obviously you're holding down the desk with the big three, are we going to see a Maya Moore cameo
I don't
on
know.
the desk? Have y'all put the ask out?
I have no idea what has been
Stop
asked. I don't
lying,
know.
Elle.
I'm
Stop
serious.
lying.
I'm serious. And I don't, Maya, we joked about this, but Maya
She does
really
not come
does
outside.
not like to, she loves her life. She is very comfortable in Atlanta with her husband and son. She does not like to leave. It's really not her thing doing public appearances. She's done a couple of them this year.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, she came to College Game Day when Caitlin was going to break the scoring record. And it was a great moment. And she joined us on the desk. And then she came out when the Lynx retired her number a couple of months ago. But it's not really her thing to do this. Like she doesn't
She don't come
love
out.
coming out. So I don't know if she's going to come out. But see, I'm actually the opposite of you. Like I love rooting for the dogs. I
Okay.
love rooting for the underdogs a little bit. We can't go wrong either way. I mean, you literally have two of the best defensive teams and two of the
Mhm.
best shooting teams. And that's all you can ask for, right? Like there was some concern that if the Sun beat the Lynx, like, ooh, is this going to be, like a series that sees a lot of 70 to 75 point games
Yeah.
because the Sun are the nastiest defenders, but sometimes offense is hard to find. And we saw that in that decisive game 5. But the Lynx can score and they shoot. They shoot from three better than any other team. And like, I think this matchup's going to give you what you want in terms of pretty play, great storylines. But I love rooting for underdogs. And you talk about personalities, like Courtney Williams has one of the best personalities in the W, and her
Yeah.
dad is a gem. If you don't know anything about her dad, look it up. You're going to see if you watch any of the coverage. So they definitely have a lot. I do still think that the reason New York is favored and pretty heavily in this one is because Sabrina Ionescu is playing lights freaking
Mhm.
out,
She's
right?
cashing.
She is cashing, and so is Stewie. There were so many years where the last couple of years, it's like Stewie had to do so much in the regular season to get
Mhm.
them there that she kind of ran out of steam or was tired. That's sort of the belief, right? Like she was asked to do so much that the weight of all of that sort of showed itself in the postseason. She is playing with such a renewed sense of whatever. She is motivated by them losing last year, and she's playing incredible. I think the difference, though, and the issue that the Lynx are going to face is that the Liberty just have more length. Like Jonquil Jones is
Mhm.
the X factor in this one, because she's got the length, she can rebound, she can shoot too, she's got a good mid range, and so I think like that if they can like sort of mobilize her, if they can neutralize Jonquil Jones, then they're going to have a great shot at winning. And I know the people at home are like, great shot at winning. This team beat the Liberty 3 games to 1. They beat them for the Commissioner's Cup. I will say the one game that the Liberty won was the one game that Jonquil Jones went off. So shout out to Rebecca Lobo for reminding us of that. She joined us on Sports Center. I think that's why the Liberty are favored. And obviously they've got home court advantage. But I think this is going to be a really great matchup that I'm hoping goes 5.
Is that your pick? Liberty in 5? You got to give picks. You have to give pick on the desk.
Hate giving death. No, I don't actually have to give picks. It's great. I get to just ask
No, no,
Drea and Janae.
I'm wasn't a question. I'm saying you have to give picks on
Oh,
the
you
desk.
have to.
You
Okay.
have to give picks on the desk. Elle, you're on a point. I'm going Liberty in 5 just because I like seeing streaks snapped. I'm going.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
locking
in
them.
the interest of like us having a back and forth, I'll go Lynx in 5 then.
Okay. Damn.
I could do
Hey,
a pick 'em.
Okay, Elle, enjoy that when you're courtside at the Barclays and the listeners hear this
I
before game
know.
two.
I
We'll be
know.
locked into our screen for
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
for that one.
I'm going to be like, you heard me cage it by saying, in the interest of great TV, I'll just choose the other team.
But this is what I really meant. Elle, we're all locked into our screens for sure. Once that tips off, game one tonight.
Yeah.
But nobody locked into their screen as we enter now spooky season more than our new coworker, NBA insider, Shams.
Yeah.
Did you see his hit this morning on SportsCenter and his
Yeah.
screen time numbers?
Yeah. It's a handsome man. And they
That's
decided they wanted the world to see that handsome face the whole time.
It's insane. Elle, it's insane. I wasn't paying attention to the face as much as I was the face time that he spends on his. Let's just run it right here. Elle, we got to pull this up. All right, our girl B Panitz tweeted this out from his hit. He spends Elle, and this means we have to pull up hours.
19 hours.
2.4 million followers on Twitter. Okay, brag about it. 500 average text calls and emails a day to and from. That's insane.
It's a nightmare.
18 hours average of screen time a day.
Yeah.
He is on. That means, Elle, he is literally looking at his phone every waking minute of the day, assuming he sleeps for 6 hours.
I was going to say that means he sleeps for 5 hours, which is wild. I guess you can get away with that when is Shams in his 20s? I'm like 5 hours of sleep. That's wild.
I think he's been in his 20s for the last 20 years. Asian don't raisin like that.
Yeah, he's got that forever young. That's for sure.
Okay, Elle. So then I looked at mine, and then you're pretty good at not looking at yours because I send you a lot of DMs on Instagram and you don't check them. That's crazy.
Well, I don't check like Instagram a lot, but I'm definitely on my phone a lot. Like if I pull up my screen time, it'd be embarrassing because at the very least, it's Sham's job.
Correct.
Okay. Ooh, I'm down 19% from last week for an average of 8 hours and 40 minutes a day on my phone.
So you're on, damn, and you got kids and a husband and everything.
Well, a lot of times I'm showing my kids like ratchet videos or funny, like, look at this dog drinking a milkshake, like that kind of crap too.
What a contrast. Ratchet videos to dogs drinking. It's so cold in the D. Now watch this Bluey video.
I show them Shade Room.
My daily average is actually lower than I thought it was going to be. 6.5 hours.
Oh, okay.
Which actually isn't too bad. Elle, the thing that I have that I was wanting to ask you about is how many different people, not texts overall or emails, but how many different people do you engage with on an average day? Whether it's work emails or just filtering texts in and out.
On an average day, between emails and text messages, I would say probably 50.
Yeah.
About 50 people.
Yeah. Last week I went through my texts and I was in a text conversation with 50 different people in one day.
Yeah.
That's miserable.
I know. That's why I'm on my phone 8 hours and 40 minutes a day. It's like I'm just always responding to emails and watching ratchet videos.
It's miserable. Watching ratchet videos, number one first. Elle, I don't know if there's enough money that you can pay me. I mean, there probably is.
Yeah, there definitely is.
There probably is, but damn.
Yeah.
Damn, 18 hours.
There's some zeros there.
Welcome to the worldwide leader, my boy, but we are going to put you to work, dude.
I was going to say, well, he averages 18 hours or 19 hours, whatever it is, 18 hours before he started working at ESPN. That thing's going to go up to 21 hours of screen time every single day.
And that's spooky season for you. This edition of spooky season. No thanks.
Yeah, I don't, in general, I like to try my best to, you feel bad though, because people don't understand that like there is times where I really have to protect my peace by just like not looking at my phone.
You have to,
because it gets very overwhelming, and like everybody thinks that the thing they have to talk to you about is the most important thing in the world. And sometimes you just really want to be able to go, you know what, like I'm going to give whoever I'm with the benefit of my full attention. And that typically means ignoring a text. And then I do the ultimate thing where like you forget it. And then I look up and I'm like, oh, I never responded to that person from a week ago. And I feel very bad, but I always try to tell people like, listen, it's not intentional. I'm not intentionally ignoring you. I need you to do a little light stalking. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, you're going to have to hit me a few times. I'm never going to go, oh my God, leave me alone. I'm going to go, oops. Thanks for the reminder, because I just, in general, it's the availability thing that is tough
Correct.
sometimes for me. You know, this that everyone just assumes that they can get you at any time because you have an email and a text message and
Correct.
multiple phones, and it's just a lot.
All right. So now that I have you for another 30 seconds, I just want the people at home to know she what she's preaching, she's teaching. Because this is my DM conversation with Elle. I sent
Oh,
her this last night. Look at this. These are all the DMs I send Elle.
oh yeah. Oh
And these are all the
God.
ones that she don't hit me back. Oh, I think nope, didn't get that. So Elle does not respond as
No.
a homie of one Elle Duncan,
Yeah.
as somebody who's been invited to her house during holidays. All
Hmm.
right. Elle is not in her Instagram DMs, probably for good reason.
And here's my thing. If you know me personally, why are you talking to me on DMs
Well,
of
because this
social
meme was
media
funny, Ellen.
accounts?
I sent it to you yesterday. It said a haunted house, but every room is filled with someone whose name you should know but don't know. And I was like, that was me at this event literally yesterday, Elle, where I walked in and it was like this nice little dinner with some clients. And I was talking to this guy who I had seen a couple of times prior. And I was like, so what is it that you do again? And then he told me he runs this local detail shop that I have literally been DMing with probably for the last 6 months,
Oh
but I
wow.
didn't know he was the owner because it's just his logo and his business name. And
Sure.
I've been talking to him like he's been a homie, and he is, but I didn't know who he was outside of the Instagram page. It
Okay,
was
well, that is
bad.
still not worse than not knowing your aunt's name. So,
I
so I think you still win, Gary, because you didn't
think
know
that's
your own
Sherry.
kin's name. And
Aunt
can't
Sherry.
wait to talk about how awkward that's going to be when you go to your sister's wedding next week. We'll get to that because next week we'll do a show for you guys on Tuesday, and then Gary's going to split the show next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, coming to you from the University of Texas for the Texas Georgia game and also Formula One. Baby, the sports world is going to center around Austin, Texas, and I cannot wait. We'll bring you all kinds of content. Got great things lined up for you. A lot of really cool interviews, a really cool experience that Gary is super jelly about. We'll get into all of that next week. In the meantime and in between time, enjoy the WNBA Finals, enjoy college football, enjoy NFL, and we will see you next week.
Peace.